everyone. Welcome back to my show and happy Sunday. It was a very beautiful, hot day down here in South Carolina, but it has started raining. So you all know that I keep my windows and my doors open. I love the fresh air. You may hear some rain in the background. Judy, thank you, my most amazing, my beautiful muffin, for always pouring into me. Thank you for the super sticker. Hey, Sparks Boo. To everyone out there on the verticals, please double tap the screen. Make sure you double tap on the replay. On the Facebook, please make sure you're sharing me out, like the video, same as on YouTube. Okay, so first I'm going to get, hey, beautiful Sheila. I'm going to get into some updates, and then what I'm going to do today, and I think I'm going to rotate my days. Today I'm going to be talking about the whole Iran war. Tomorrow I'm going to be bringing that story with the black female Uber driver that was killed by the white man after a scam call. I have the body worn camera footage from EWU, so I will be showing that on tomorrow. Today, we're going to run a few hours of continuous coverage of the current war with Iran. All right, everyone. Tonight, we need to talk about something that could potentially reshape the entire world. Because right now, as we speak, the United States, Israel, and Iran are locked in one of the most dangerous military conflicts the Middle East has seen in years. Missiles, drone strikes, oil facilities exploding, and global leaders warning that this could spiral into something far bigger. And the biggest question people are asking right now is simple. How did we get here? And how far could this go? Let's break it all down. How this war started, and everyone is welcome. Chat with me, engage with me. Just please be respectful, misspell curse words, okay? The current war officially began on February 28th. That's when the United States and Israel launched coordinated military strikes against Iran. This operation targeted Iranian military bases, nuclear facilities, missile production sites, and government command centers. But the most shocking moment came when the strikes killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. That's when things took like a serious turn with things. That single event sent shockwaves across the entire world because removing the supreme leader of Iran wasn't just a military attack. It was essentially a decapitation strike against the Iranian government. Within hours, Iran declared retaliation. Y'all hear the thunder in the background? Yeah, because it's been hot here, so thunderstorms are expected. Iran responded the way many analysts feared, with massive missile and drone attacks across the region. The targets included Israel, U.S. military bases, Gulf states hosting American troops, energy facilities, and shipping routes. Hundreds of missiles and drones were launched towards U.S. bases in Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. And this is just a comprehensive thing that I put together to go over with you all before we get into the footage, because the footage, my God. Iran also attacked shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important oil routes in the world. And when that happened, the global economy immediately started to feel the shockwave. And I stated that that was going to happen. Because about 1/5 of the world's oil moves through that narrow stretch of water. If it closes completely, oil prices could and will skyrocket. Now let's talk about the current situation, because the war is still escalating. Recent reports say U.S. and Israel forces are continuing airstrikes inside Iran. Oil depots and energy infrastructures in Tehran have been hit. Iranian missiles continue targeting regional bases and cities. It's just getting worse. Mm-hmm. A lot of these attacks have been expanded to civilian infrastructures like plants and energy facilities. That means this conflict is now affecting drinking water supplies, oil production, airports, shipping routes, and the humanitarian toll is already rising. More than 1,000 people have reportedly been unalive since the war began. Now, here's where things get even more complicated. President Trump has said the war will not end until Iran essentially surrenders. At one point, he called for an unconditional surrender. And Iran's government responded by calling that demand a dream. And they vowed to continue resisting. So this is going to only get worse. Now let's hey Pinky Pink, let me say hey to my people. Hey Pinky Pink, and I have things running on different platforms. So you guys in one chat may not see the chatters in another. Let's go ahead and pull up this coverage because it's just been bad, y'all. Nothing good. And this is only going to get worse until one of them quits. Now let's begin our continuous coverage of the war. Oops, my bad, y'all.
We're coming to you with breaking news. President Trump right now speaking live from the White House about Iran. Take a listen.
Too many to introduce. A lot of them are political champions, and we don't care about them today, right? Right, Duffy? But we have, most importantly, wonderful people that love our country. And before we begin, I think I will say a few words about what's going
Muffin,
on
go ahead.
with respect to our
Hey,
operation in the country of Iran. The United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners, continues to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before, actually. We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible.
Hey, Hassan.
As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening. But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no air force. They have no air defense. All of their airplanes are gone. Their communications are gone. Missiles are gone. Launches are gone. About 60% and 64% respectively. Other than that, they're doing quite well. I said, what's left? But they're tough and they want to fight. And they're calling, they're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late. And we want to fight now more than they.
Now let me say this. Y'all know I allow both sides to bang it out in the chat. Y'all know I don't mind it. Everyone has an opinion. Just misspell the cuss words and try to respell trigger words, okay, guys? But everyone's welcome with their own opinions.
They do. We've had 47 years, depending on the way you count it, but 47 years of horror with this group. And, when you see somebody walking down the street without their legs, without the arms, whose face is so badly affected and hurt, it mostly came from 95% Soleimani and Iran. And we, other presidents, lived with it. I didn't live with it. And so our people are doing a great job. Again, the greatest military anyone's seen. Thank you. Thank you very much. And yesterday, my administration announced decisive action to help keep down the oil prices, including offering political risk insurance for tankers transiting into the Gulf, as you know, pretty dangerous territory. Further action to reduce pressure on oil is imminent, and the oil seems to have pretty much stabilized. We had it very low, but I had to take this little detour if it's okay with everybody. Scott, it's okay with you? Scott's the one who has to put up with it. He said, you have to do this now? I said, I have to do it, Scott, right? But it's been very strong, and everybody, including Scott, everybody feels we had really no choice. They were gonna hit us if we didn't hit them, because they're crazy. And in the long term, the actions we're taking will dramatically increase the stability of the region and oil prices and stock markets and everything else. We set the all-time record in history with the Dow going to 50,000. So Dow is at 50,000. It was supposed to be maybe, if we were lucky, within by the end of my presidency in 4 years. And we did it in my first year. We did the S&P 500. We did that in a period of less than a year. And that was even tougher than the Dow, they said, so it wasn't going to happen. But we have a great country. We have a country that's never done this well. We've had tremendous success in so many different ways. I built the military and rebuilt it in my first term, and we're using it more than I'd like to use it, to be honest with you. But when we used it, we found out it certainly did work. When we look at Venezuela, when we look at the first attack, Midnight Hammer in Iran, which really set the stage for what we're doing right now, it's been pretty amazing. And I'm once again calling on all members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the military and the police, to lay down their arms. They're only going to be killed. And now is the time to stand up for the Iranian people and help take back your country. You're going to have a chance after all these years to take back your country. Accept immunity. We'll give you immunity. And we'll be giving you really the right side of history, because that's what it is. So you'll be perfectly safe with total immunity, or you'll face absolutely guaranteed death. And I don't want to see that. They don't want to see it either. We also urge Iranian diplomats around the world to request asylum and to help us shape a new and better Iran with great potential. It's a country with great potential. There's much better future for Iran. It's now beginning. It's going to be, I think, a great future. And the United States will ensure that whoever leads the country next, Iran will not threaten America or its neighbors, Israel, anybody. If you look at what happened, they had missiles aimed at all of these other countries, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, many others, that weren't really involved very much. And they had missiles aimed, well, they were aimed there long before this ever started. They were going after the entire Middle East. And then we came along. We blew up their party. So we have phenomenal people. I want to thank all of the people that have been involved. Marco, you've been doing a fantastic job. And you've been doing a fantastic job on a place called Cuba. Right? And A-Rod came in before. I said, hey, do you want to come up to a little award? He's gone to plenty of award ceremonies. Thank you, A-Rod. Big fan. But what's happening with Cuba is amazing. And we think that we want to finish this one first, but that will be just a question of time before you and a lot of unbelievable people are going to be going back to Cuba. Hopefully not to stay. We want you back, and we don't want to lose you. We don't want to make it so nice that they stay. But some people probably do want to stay. They love Cuba so much. I hear it all the time. That was another one that wasn't supposed to happen. Venezuela is going great. It's been stabilized. We have a wonderful person as your president-elect, Delcy Rodriguez, and she and her staff have been doing a fantastic job working with us. We're taking out hundreds of millions of barrels of oil, and it's going to Houston and various other places where it's being refined, and we're sending them back far more money than they've made in many years, and actually very shortly it'll be more money than they've ever made. And Venezuela is working. So we've had a lot of countries in places that truly love, you would say football, I would say soccer, but these are all countries that love football/soccer. And so I think the group likes it. And if you'd like, you could sit. I know I'm a very exciting speaker, but you can sit down if you'd like, okay? I'm looking at everybody standing. I'm saying, let's sit down. Because we're here to honor these great champions, and we want to.
All right, you were just listening to President Trump there at the White House. This was a ceremony for Inter Miami CF, the MLS team there, behind President Trump as he's addressing the audience there and reporters. But obviously, news of day being about Iran, the president really kind of.
It is not looking good for Donald Trump. Physically and mentally, he is collapsing while the United States is at war, while the United States war against Iran has gone from horrible to absolutely catastrophic. Donald Trump's physical and mental health appears to be absolutely catastrophic. I mean, throughout the entire day yesterday, he kept on posting on his social media photos of the comedian Bill Maher. He had some dinner with Bill Maher February or something, and there were February articles of Bill Maher. He kept on posting, not just once, 8 times.
My bad, I meant to do this one last.
Bill Maher. Then he started posting videos of Grand Theft Auto, the video game Grand Theft.
A chilling escalation has unfolded in the Middle East conflict as Iran launches ballistic missiles armed with cluster bomb warheads at central Israel and Jerusalem. The attack raised alarm across central Israeli cities as dozens of small explosive submunitions rained down across wide areas, turning neighborhoods into potential impact zones. Footage emerging from central Israel shows what appear to be submunitions falling from the sky after a ballistic missile strike. These small bombs are believed to have been released from a cluster warhead carried by an Iranian missile during the latest attack. According to the Israel Defense Forces, Iran has repeatedly used ballistic missiles fitted with cluster bomb warheads during the ongoing conflict. These warheads function very differently from traditional missile payloads. As the missile descends toward its target, the warhead opens mid-air. It then releases roughly 20 smaller explosive munitions, scattering them across a wide radius, estimated to be about 8 kilometers. Each of these submunitions contains approximately 2.5 kilograms of explosives. Once released, they have no propulsion or guidance systems of their own. Instead, they simply fall toward the ground, detonating on impact wherever they land. Military officials say the design dramatically expands the danger zone of a single missile. While each individual blast is smaller than that of a conventional missile warhead, the spread of multiple explosives across a large area increases the risk to civilians and infrastructure. In comparison, Iran's conventional ballistic missile warheads typically carry around 500 kilograms of explosives. Those warheads are capable of causing devastating destruction at a single impact site. But cluster warheads operate differently. Their objective is to spread explosive force across multiple locations simultaneously, creating widespread disruption and increasing the unpredictability of where damage may occur. During the latest Iranian attack, Israeli military assessments indicate that only a small number of missiles were launched in the salvo. However, the use of cluster munitions meant that each missile potentially produced dozens of separate impact points. Missile fragments and submunitions were reported to have struck several areas across central Israel. Israeli police say the impacts caused damage in multiple locations. In one central Israeli town, an impact from a submunition reportedly ignited a fire, prompting an emergency response from rescue teams.
Well, this came out as
Air
something
raid
new.
sirens
Well,
had
let's go
earlier
forward to another video then.
On the U.S. Navy's most powerful warships,
I think this is a
a
live
massive
currently
barrage
running.
of ballistic and cruise missiles, backed by waves of suicide drones, tore toward the USS Harry Truman aircraft carrier and its escort fleet in the Red Sea. Explosions lit up the dark waters as the U.S. rushed to intercept the incoming onslaught. The Houthis
All right, guys, we've got yet another heavy hitter guest and first-time guest on the show. Professor Zhang, he is the star of the popular YouTube channel Predictive History. He uses game theory to analyze past, current, and to predict future geopolitical events. And he joins us now.
Hold on, guys, because it
now
just took me
exceeding
out of my own
900
stuff.
million.
For the fifth consecutive day, our armed forces continue with the help.
Give me a minute, because I don't know what it's doing.
And several other provinces in the past hours.
With tensions boiling over, President Donald Trump delivered a furious warning to Iran, accusing it of arming the Houthis and fueling the war. Iran must stop the sending of these supplies immediately. Let the Houthis fight it out themselves. Either way, they lose, but this way, they lose quickly,
Okay, I'm at the
Trump
bottom.
declared. Trump vowed to annihilate the Houthis, warning that U.S.
They have no navy. It's been knocked out. Those were the words of US President Donald Trump on March 3rd, following 48 hours that had utterly ruined Iran's naval fleet. Iran challenged the US. That was a mistake. Bombs and missiles flew, and Iran's entire fleet was wiped out in just 2 days. This is historically bad for Iran, and it's only going to get worse for a regime that is collapsing before our eyes. After initial American and Israeli strikes on Iran wiped out a huge chunk of the country's leadership, Iran responded with attacks on several US military bases. Okay, the US said, "We see your base attacks and we'll raise you with the destruction of your entire naval fleet." US Tomahawks flew in an operation that overwhelmed any strategy that Iran's navy had, and the results speak for themselves. Iran has lost 11 of its warships, along with several of its attack submarines, and the US has unleashed a devastating wave of firepower that serves as a reminder to Iran's crumbling regime, as if one was needed, that anything Iran can try is just going to be met with a bigger and far more devastating response from the US. In a few minutes, we're going to explain how the US left Iran's entire navy crippled in just 48 hours. Before we do, let's take a deeper look at the results. We can sum it up in 7 words. The Gulf of Oman has
Please
been
double tap the screen,
That's
guys.
according to the US Central
Thanks
Command,
to
or CENTCOM, which
232
took
of
to
y'all
X to
hanging out.
explain what it pulled off in just 2 days. 2 days ago, the Iranian regime had 11 ships in the Gulf of Oman. Today, they have 0. The Iranian regime has harassed and attacked international shipping in the Gulf of Oman for decades. Those days are over, CENTCOM declared. There's a hint here about why the US took aim at Iran's navy. We'll get into later. But the big news here is that some of Iran's most important warships are out of the war just days into the fight, destroying Iran's naval posture in an instant. And we don't have to take CENTCOM's word for it. Satellite photographs are already emerging that showcase the scale of the damage that America's strikes have caused. The Iris Makran, which is Iran's first forward-based ship, is down. That vessel was struck while it was moored in Bandar Abbas, naval news reports. And it means that the US has taken out what was once an oil tanker, but has since become a military vessel capable of supporting helicopter operations. With a displacement of 120,000 tons, the Iris Makran was among the largest vessels in the Middle East region. Now, satellite photographs show fires on its berth and smoke streaming out of the warship's central portion. A Jamaran-class corvette that was stationed at a pier in Chabahar has also been taken out, armed with anti-ship and surface-to-air missiles along with torpedoes. This type of ship was supposed to be central to Iran's naval strategy. Iran has 6 of them, and at least one now stuck at Konarak Naval Base with smoke streaming out of it. The list goes on and on. The Telegraph reveals that satellite imagery captured by Planet Labs shows the Bandar Abbas region, where at least 11 of Iran's warships were docked as recently as February 22nd, is now blanketed in a smog of thick black smoke following America's heavy bombing campaign. The remains of the Iris Makran can be seen in the photos that the Telegraph shares. However, the biggest hit came against Iran's best warship, the Iris Shahid Bagheri. The closest thing that Iran has to an aircraft carrier, the Iris Shahid Bagheri, is the center of Iran's mobile drone threat. Referred to by WION as a mothership, the vessel has been used by Iran to launch drones at US bases and Gulf countries from the moment that the US campaign against Iran began. Like the Iris Makran, the Iris Shahid Bagheri started life as a commercial ship that Iran converted into a warship, which perhaps gives us an idea of why Iran's navy isn't all that the country's regime needed it to be. What we've seen over the past 48 hours is what weapons built for war can do when they target commercial ships converted for war. The UK Defence Journal adds that the Iris Shahid Bagheri has also been converted to launch and retrieve helicopters, making it an even bigger threat than its drone usage implies. But now it's gone. I guess you could say it's the first aircraft carrier to be sunk since World War II, Cappy Army says Riley in his coverage of the US blitz of Iran's naval assets. That might be a little bit of a stretch, at least when comparing the Iris Shahid Bagheri to US carriers such as the USS Abraham Lincoln, which has been playing a key role in this story. But the warship was among Iran's best, and its loss will sting because it means that the country's strategy of unleashing drones against America's bases and vessels has just taken a massive hit. Already reeling, Iran's regime would have been wondering how it could get any worse during the 48 hours of destruction that the US unleashed. It could get worse, and it did. The Telegraph explains, reporting, US forces have also mostly destroyed the headquarters of the Iranian naval fleet in the port of Bandar Abbas, while Ali Shamkhani, an admiral in Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, has been killed in an Israeli airstrike. So Iran has lost its entire fleet in the Gulf of Oman. Its naval headquarters has been devastated, and one of its top admirals is 6 feet under. This isn't just bad for Iran, it's historically bad. And there will be Iranians of a certain age who will feel a massive sense of déjà vu right now. Iran has been here before, watching on helplessly as the US crippled the country's entire fleet. This has to feel like Operation Praying Mantis, only with a major twist that we'll explain if you stick with us. During the late 1970s and into the 80s, Iran made a habit of attacking the US. 1979 saw Iranian revolutionaries take 52 Americans hostage, holding them for 444 days. The US launched the Desert One rescue mission, which failed catastrophically and left 8 US service members dead. In 1983, an Iranian suicide bomber killed 241 US Marines and sailors in Beirut. And 4 years later, the US experienced more Middle East humiliation when an Iraqi jet attacked the USS Stark, killing 37 US sailors. Then came April 18, 1988. Operation Praying Mantis was launched. And in a matter of hours, the US destroyed a pair of Iranian oil platforms, a missile boat, 2 frigates, and 3 armed speedboats. In a matter of hours, half of Iran's navy had been crippled in what was the worst blow delivered in modern times to a navy that had existed since the First Persian Empire over 2,500 years ago. Note the word was. Operation Praying Mantis will feel like a picnic compared to what just happened to Iran's navy. Now here's the twist. While older Iranians will be feeling a sense of déjà vu over what just happened, they'll also be asking themselves how it happened at all. Iran has been preparing for this type of fight with the United States ever since Operation Praying Mantis. That single day led to a complete rewrite of Iranian naval doctrine to ensure that nothing like the 1980s embarrassment would ever happen again. They came up with a plan to overwhelm American ships with swarms of fast attack boats, Cappy Army explains, adding, they planned to fire land-based anti-ship missiles at US forces. They had a whole strategy of using their submarines to ambush US vessels. Knowing that it couldn't stack up to the US on the pure naval firepower front, Iran had developed a layered and asymmetric strategy that was supposed to see its fast attack boats slip in and out of range, delivering shots as they went, all while Iran's submarines and missiles pelted anything that the US sent Iran's way. But nothing went according to Iran's plan. And the reason why is that Iran had been preparing for an attack like Operation Praying Mantis, and the US delivered something entirely different. But before we go deeper into that, if this is the kind of insight you want more of, make sure you're subscribed to the Military Show. We break it down like this every single week. Iran's biggest problem during America's 48-hour blitz of its navy was that it never saw the particular tactics that the US used coming. A naval doctrine created in the 1990s to counter the type of threat that ruined Iran's navy in the late 80s was never going to work. Iran had planned for what amounted to a ship-to-ship fight, which is where its fast attack boats would have a chance to excel. The Iranian regime thought its navy would be able to confine the much larger US ships in constricted waters, such as the Strait of Hormuz, which we'll be covering in a few minutes. Stuck in those waters, America's ships would be sitting ducks for the missiles launched from the fast boats, along with torpedoes fired by submarines and drones launched from Iran's makeshift aircraft carriers. But by 2026, the US knew what Iran was going to do. Persistent drone coverage combined with other forms of intelligence meant that the US knew where Iran's boats were at all times. Iranian warships haven't been able to get close to what the US has sent to the Persian Gulf region because military tech, as surprising as this appears to have been for Iran, has advanced since the 1990s. So has America's strategy. Iran ended up bringing a knife to a gunfight and the US said, screw you. America wasn't about to play the fast boat game. Its strategy was simple and utterly devastating. Ruin Iran's fleet using Tomahawk missiles launched from so far away that Iran's entire naval strategy wouldn't be able to make it out of port. The US used the anti-ship missiles that Iran was expecting it to use during Operation Praying Mantis. But in 2026, as part of Operation Epic Fury, the US unleashed Tomahawk cruise missiles at Iran's navy. Those missiles have a much longer standoff range than anything that Iran expected the US to use, which means the warships and platforms used to launch them never get within range of Iran's warships. The Iris Makran was a casualty of this very strategy, as Tomahawk missiles launched from hundreds of miles away slammed into the ship, one after the other and in such rapid succession that whatever defenses Iran had loaded into the vessel never had a chance to stop what the US unleashed. Those Tomahawks were likely launched by the Ali Burke-class destroyers that Iran expected to be getting up close and personal with its fast attack boats, and with their 1,600-kilometer or around 1,000-mile range, those missiles were the only thing that Iran's idling warships saw before they were destroyed. Iran was waiting for America's warships to arrive.
We're coming to you with breaking news. President Trump right now speaking live from the White House about Iran. Take a listen.
Too many to introduce. A lot of them are political champions, and we don't care about them today, right? Right, Duffy? But we have, most importantly, wonderful people that love our country. And before we begin, I think I will say a few words about what's going on with respect to our operation in the country of Iran. The United States military.
And the Iran war is widening with both attacks and threats. Another country has been dragged in and the death toll is mounting.
In Bahrain, its largest oil refinery has been hit by Iranian missiles, the key facility crippled. The US and Israel launching a fresh wave of bombings as Iran insists it will keep on fighting.
In western Iran, a governor's office takes a direct hit. Emergency services scramble to find victims as another country is dragged into war. Azerbaijan under drone attack at the airport and near a school. Iran denies all blame. But the leaderless nation's attack on Bahrain, undeniable. One of the biggest refineries in the Middle East engulfed. Not a good time to be America's friend. Or its enemy. This stadium leveled, targeted as an enemy stronghold. At sea, this drone launcher blown to bits by the US. While in the sky, an Israeli F-35 takes down an Iranian jet. Israel's first dogfight in 40 years. As far away as Cyprus, Iran triggers air raid sirens at a Royal Air Force base as the Brits send in reinforcements. Here, the RAF obliterating a drone over Jordan, but on the ground, fleeing Iranians are defiant.
They cannot defeat Iran.
On Iranian TV, a senior cleric calls for President Trump's blood.
NBC Nightly News.
On US TV, Iran's foreign minister.
Please vote on my poll, guys.
Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour. Their Navy is gone. Other than that, they're doing quite well.
We are built for this fight, and we are in it to win it.
The Americans convinced Iran is running out of firepower. With the stocks of Iranian ballistic missiles now diminished, so too are the chances of anything like this happening again. This was the result of just one missile. This entire block flattened. The sirens ringing out again over Beit Shemesh, where this week 9 were killed when an Iranian missile slammed straight into the village bomb shelter, its half-ton warhead penetrating the roof. The extraordinary thing about the direct hit onto this shelter, despite what you see with the twisted metal, the rubble and the collapsed roof, is that most people survived. The structure held just. Most of those killed in the missile tragedy were caught outside in this. And on the scene to help, this 25-year-old Australian soldier.
Confronting? Look, it's part of the work. I mean, this is something that we've been training for a long time.
In from Melbourne, another from Melbourne here. The pair signing up for war. We can't reveal their names, but their motive.
With everything that happened in Bondi, it gave me more motivation to be here. And I think it's even more important now for an Australian representative to be out here.
And I have the fitness, I have the ability, and I really believe that anyone who can should.
2 Australians in a growing global conflict. The Netherlands, Italy and Spain joining Britain and France in sending warships. Multinational mission creep.
Well, let's go live to Chris Reason in central Israel. Chris, Israel has again stepped up its air campaign in Lebanon.
Good evening, Max. Lebanese authorities are telling us that a staggering 420,000 people are now on the move from the southern regions of that country into the relative safety of the north as the Israelis continue to pound the area with aerial attacks in their search for Hezbollah targets. So far, 70 people plus have been killed. The Lebanese complaining that the Israelis are only giving them an hour to pack everything they have and get out. It's causing mass panic, mass movement. We're getting reports this morning as well that the Hezbollah are now doing exactly the same.
Question, is that my Gary from the other day? If that's my Gary from the other day, I've been looking for you in Maggot Slayer, by the way.
To the Israelis, saying that anybody that lives within 5 kilometres of the border needs to pack up and get out now. Katrina?
Chris Reason there. Now let's go to Jacqueline Robson in Tel Aviv. And Jackie, Iran is launching cluster missiles, which is a huge problem for Israel.
Katrina, there's been plenty of talk Iran was using this controversial type of warhead. Now we've seen multiple videos of it in action flying across the skies towards central Israel. These cluster bombs, they break up and scatter upon descent, releasing around 20 or so smaller munitions that fall widely and indiscriminately, making it near impossible for the Iron Dome defences to lock on and intercept. Last night it caused fire and damage to residential homes. These bombs are a much wider and stronger threat to civilians. There are now questions about how Iran has got its hands on this military technology. There are suggestions it's either come from Russia or China. Max?
Jacqueline Robson in Tel Aviv. Australia's role in one of the biggest flashpoints of the Iran conflict so far has been revealed. We now know 3 Australians were on board that US submarine that sank an Iranian warship.
The visiting leader who counsels middle powers like Australia to distance themselves from big powers, Canada's Mark Carney leaves Canberra as details emerge on how tightly we're tied to the United States.
Labor's statement since this war began that Australia is not directly involved in the war has been a lie.
The view from a US submarine this week as it sinks Iranian frigate the Dina off Sri Lanka. At least 87 dead. Were Australians on the American sub?
We won't confirm exactly where people are.
But then...
I can confirm that there were 3 Australian personnel on board that vessel.
The PM's concession surprising some who know the secrecy around submarine operations.
I think he's been pushed and he's done what he felt he needed to do. But I think it strikes a terrible precedent.
I can confirm also, though, that no Australian personnel have participated in any offensive action against Iran.
Just last month, Australia's HMAS Warramunga joined an international naval event in India with the Iranian frigate. According to the Greens, today's revelation means Australia is not only involved in the Middle East conflict, it's implicated in a war crime, and the powers here had no say in it.
The decision was made years ago when we chose to go into AUKUS. We handed over our autonomy.
You can't be half-hearted about that. And there's no point us having a national nervous breakdown that this has occurred.
Former Army Chief Peter Lay says the Greens are wrong.
New videos showing the overwhelming firepower of the U.S. and Israeli militaries as they continue to hammer Iran's defenses. CENTCOM is reporting our forces controlled the skies and destroying Iran's arsenal with, quote, lethal precision. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany. Here is my co-host, Emily Campagno. Also joining us, Caroline Downey, National Review columnist, Cheryl Casoni, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home on Fox Business, and Lawrence Jones, co-host of Fox & Friends. Well, let's start here. As the conflict intensifies, the State Department says it's working around the clock to bring Americans home from the Middle East.
We've seen 20,000 Americans be able to return to the United States since this began, including 10,000 Americans that have been directly assisted by that task force. Bottom line is this: if you're an American in the region that is looking to depart the region, please call +1 202 501 4444. We are working 24/7 to bring you home.
A new video posted last hour shows B-52s at work. CENTCOM explaining these bombers have been used in every major conflict since 1965, including Operation Epic Fury. During the first 100 hours, these planes struck Iranian ballistic missiles in command and control posts. And the B-52s joining the U.S. and Israel's aerial assault, with military officials reporting the Iranian regime's ability to impact other nations in the region is, quote, rapidly declining. But Iran is still trying to fight back. This video was taken in Azerbaijan this morning. Azerbaijan says 4 people were hurt when several drones landed in civilian areas near the Iranian border, including near an airport and a school. Iran denied responsibility, saying, quote, "We do not attack our neighboring countries, including Azerbaijan." Oh, wait, but Iran has now attacked 12 countries in the region so far. We have that list. Let's pull it up. Lawrence, absolutely laughable to suggest you don't attack neighboring countries. The list of 12, as you can see here, everyone from the UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. The list goes on. Once again, as I said yesterday, proving they are not a rational actor when you're attacking 12 countries.
Well, it's proven the president's point, as well as Israel's point. You know, some of the countries that they're attacking are considered allies of Iran. Take Turkey, for example. Turkey isn't like some of the other countries that have been saying things privately that they won't say publicly. This just shows you, if they act this way with the little missiles that they have, what would they have done with a nuclear weapon? I think this is the president's point right here. And I think this also goes to the larger conversation that the president tried to get peace. He talked to a lot of Arab countries, the Muslim world, brought them together. But you got to remember, that was Iran's goal. They wanted to unite the Muslim world. They wanted all Muslims to be radicals. And a lot of them chose their economic prosperity instead of that. That's why they're attacking airports. That's why they're attacking hotels, because this goes against everything that Iran wanted from the very beginning. At the end of the day, we know where this ends. You got a president of the United States who is clear-eyed. You got a Secretary of Defense that has the support of his generals right now, and they are doing surgical strikes, and it's working. And we'll see how this ends if the Iranian people finally get that chance, once they get the weapons, and I think there's going to be some reporting on that very soon. Once they get the weapons and it can operate internally, that's when the game is really going to be changed. Yeah, without a doubt. And, you know, Emily, I think he hit the crux there when he said, if you're going to attack 12 neighboring countries, what are you going to do with a nuclear weapon? I want to put this up. CENTCOM posted this morning. This is 100 hours of Operation Epic Fury. You can see all of the U.S. military assets that have been used against Iran. But I think a key point here
is many of these assets were surrounding Iran for weeks, and they pranced into a meeting, a diplomatic meeting, and said, we have enough uranium to build 11 nukes while you're staring this down?
Well, I think what we saw there was an audacity, an emboldenment that had been fomented under the prior administration, and frankly, with many prior administrations before that. You don't. Right now, we are seeing sort of a wild animal lash out in its final moments. But there has been not only meticulous planning with a lot of cells and proxies by Iran, by the Islamic Republic for quite some time, but also there's been an arrogance because they haven't ever been held to account, because we are still funding terrorist cells, right? That's being held up in the Senate right now. We are still funding to the tune of $83 million a year, a week, the terrorist activities here. So I think, of course, why wouldn't they have thought that they would be blessed in their endeavor? Now, finally, they have been met with the clear-eyed vision and the incredible forces of us and our allies. And to sort of underscore my point, just 9 hours ago, Pakistani forces destroyed both al-Qaeda and Taliban sort of headquarters or in that central area in Kandahar. And up until now, we've been told, oh, they don't work together. Remember, al-Qaeda is separate from ISIS, is separate from certain, in TTF. So the reality is that under the sort of looking the other way and the fomenting of their emboldenment has been them rising up and has been them fostering relationships, and then through the open borders, slipping their way in here. So a prepared citizenry is the thing that terrorists fear most. And the American might and our commitment to liberation and our allies is what the Islamic Republic feared most. So stay consistent and also recognize that this is the result not just of our decision now and our incredible dedication to seeing it through, but for letting it happen for so many decades.
Cheryl, I want to play this. This is moments ago. We have new video of these strikes over Tehran. You're looking at them. There's explosions lighting up the night sky. This is happening, in real time, essentially.
Yeah, and this is the thing we heard from the Secretary of War earlier this morning, the precision strikes that are happening, whether it is missile silos, whether it is the headquarters of the RIGC, whether it was the strike that we saw over the weekend, of course, when the Iranian leadership was taken out. The utter stupidity of the Iranians I find incredible, but not surprising that you would go after the GCC the way that they have. This is the complete wrong move. That's one issue. Also, we have to talk about the incredible ally we've got in Israel right now and the military partner that we have with the Israelis right now. They have shown the power and the progress that you can find in technology in this new age of war. A lot of the airport strikes that we've been watching happen over the last few days, whether it was Abu Dhabi or the strike outside of the Dubai airport, those were drones, cheap drones that they were buying from other countries. Certainly, that's one issue. Also, you got to back up and look at the macro story here. It is unbelievable what the Trump administration has done. Think about it. You take out Maduro. You're basically paralyzed any Iranian exports of oil, which we'll talk about later. That hurts the Chinese because the Chinese are buying 80% of the oil from Iran that they were exporting to fund these terrorist organizations. The Hezbollah, the Houthis, all of these groups are on their heels. We've completely upended and we are reshaping the Middle East. I say that from someone that wants to see economic prosperity, that wants to see the continued growth.
Can a few, if I do have mods here, can a few of the mods go to the vertical live? I really need y'all to moderate over there for me, if you don't mind.
Of Dubai, of Doha, of Kuwait, that wants to see stability in Iraq with the Kurds, who deserve, I think, at this point, that stability. It is an incredible moment in our time, I think.
It is. Trump is resetting the world order. That's what this comes down to. He has remade the world order in a way that is better and more positive. Caroline, CENTCOM said this: the two most powerful air forces in the world are dominating the skies over the world's largest state sponsor of terror.
Yeah, my dad graduated from West Point in the 60s. My nephew is actually there right now, and they still teach cadets Clausewitz rules of war. One of the most important being you have to destroy the enemy's centers of gravity, which is exactly what our Air Force, what our military.
We are going to start with one of the biggest stories we have been following for over a week now, and that is the escalating situation over in the Middle East. Bringing us out to this, it's a live image that we have in Tel Aviv over in Israel. As I read some of the latest reporting courtesy of the Associated Press. They say this, that Israel on Sunday struck southern Lebanon, Beirut, and an oil storage facility in Tehran as the war in the Middle East keeps escalating. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised, quote, many surprises for the next phase of this conflict. Not only do we have this live look out of Tel Aviv, but we also continue to have a live look out of Beirut in Lebanon, where out in the distance you can see a bit of smoke there. It has been dissipating for the past several hours. The AP going on to say this, that Iran also hit a desalination plant in Bahrain. And earlier on Sunday, Iran's foreign minister said a U.S. airstrike damaged an Iranian desalination plant on an island, warning that in doing so, quote, the U.S. set this precedent, not Iran. Such infrastructure is critical for drinking water supplies in the parched deserts of the Gulf. And an Israeli attack on an oil storage facility in Tehran sent up pillars of fire that could be seen by some video courtesy of the AP as a glow against the Saturday night sky. It appeared to be the first time a civil industrial facility has been targeted in this war. Now, the war, which erupted on February 28th after U.S. and Israeli strikes hit Iran, has so far killed at least, more than 1,000 people, 1,230 at last check from the Associated Press, and those deaths were in the Islamic Republic. More than 300 in Lebanon were also killed and a dozen in Israel, according to officials that are following this matter very closely. I do want to keep us on this live image as we prepare to continue on this conversation with our next guest, so hang tight for just a sec.
I do believe it's an Epstein cover-up, Darlene. The hell is she with her guests? Hold on.
Been following these developments very closely. David, good to have you on today.
Thank you for having me on.
So I did give a bit of a recap there right off the top of some of the things that we had been following for the last several hours. What really stuck out to you, and what really, out of all of those developments, could possibly change the trajectory of this entire conflict?
Well, I think, first of all, I mean, the very fact that Hezbollah joined in this conflict, given its domestic constraints, given the fact that, I mean, just over a year ago, they got out of a war that they got, they fell into. They didn't really expect their intervention in the Gaza conflict to turn into a full war. Decimated their political
Guys, where
leadership,
it's like
decimated
that, like
most of their arsenal.
hold
And
on.
yet we find them again starting a conflict with the Israelis. And this
I don't mind free speech, y'all know that, but yeah, Nutty like put pedio or Pedialyte, but not that whole word. So I just removed that comment. Yeah, like we usually do pedophiles, Pedialyte, stuff like that. Okay. Yes, Operation Epstein Fairy. I do I do agree.
suggests to me that they're sensing that the Israeli-American war in Iran is heading in a direction that's going to threaten the regime's existence. Otherwise, why risk the predictably furious Israeli response and the equally predictably furious response from Lebanese, or again, dragging them into a foreign conflict? The one thing that could really change this trajectory is if the United States and Israel stop the war prematurely for whatever reason, if President Trump accepts any Iranian offer for negotiation, some kind of off-ramp that allows the regime to preserve its existence, lick its wounds from this conflict, preserve its existence, but then return back to the same behaviors that led us to this point to begin with.
I want to put up next here, it's a map of the region, just to give our viewers a bit more context as to some of the surrounding countries. Now, this conflict, David.
Let's say the war isn't a cover-up. It's just a good distraction, okay? It's a good distraction, but I don't think it's a cover-up.
As you know, it appears to be affecting multiple countries across the Middle East right now. How concerned are regional governments about this risk of a further expansion when it comes to the fighting?
Thank you, my muffin. Thank you, Judy.
Well, I mean, I think it's expanded as far as it can already. There are attacks on the Gulf states. There's attacks in Iraq and Jordan. And Iran is saying that it's only attacking U.S. assets in these countries, but really what they're trying to do, and it's first of all not true, right? We've seen footage of attacks on, say, hotels in the United Arab Emirates and elsewhere, and what they're trying to do is kind of hit the soft underbelly of American regional power. The Gulf states are prosperous countries. They're not, they've had a history of war, say in Yemen, but they're not inclined towards fighting. They don't have that durability that or the endurance the Israelis have built up from unfortunately decades of experiencing war after war after war. And what the Iranians are hoping is this harassment of the Gulf states will lead them to effectively cry uncle. And given their influence with President Trump, given President Trump's proximity to the Gulf states, they'll turn to him and say, President Trump, please stop this war in Iran. We can't take anymore. And again, that'll lead to a premature ceasefire that'll allow the Islamic Republic to endure everything that Iran is doing right now. I don't think they expect a genuine military victory in the conventional sense. They're trying to get what the United States and Israel to do to stop because they want the regime to survive. Again, not so they can come to a real modus vivendi with either the United States and Israel or the regional countries, but so they can go back to the business of regional destabilization, proxies, building up their ballistic missile arsenal, and of course, going back to rebuilding their nuclear program.
As we talk a little bit about some of these goals that Iran still has here in terms of where they want this to go next, and given the rhetoric, what we've heard from both the U.S. and the Israeli governments, I mean, is this something that Iran could achieve just to keep the regime alive and to continue on operations as they were before?
Achieving the regime's survival actually isn't that hard. It's a harder lift for the United States and for Israel, given we don't have ground forces in Iran, given the size of the country, given that this is a regime that's had almost 50 years to build up organizational depth. It's actually harder to achieve regime change, to destroy the proxies, to eliminate all of Iran's pathways for resurgence than it is for Iran to just maintain that bare thread that allows it to continue existing, at least the Islamic Republic regime, rather. And from there, look, then they'll wait until international conditions are more favorable. Maybe the president. The current president becomes more preoccupied with domestic issues. The next president's not interested in the Middle East. They'll wait for an opportune moment. This is a regime that is defined by strategic patience. So if it takes 5-10 years, they'll wait for that moment when the eyes are off of them, and then they'll restart what they've been doing. So the goal now is just survive, and that's a very easy goal to achieve.
A lot of the conversation right
I'm
now,
definitely going to
a
look
lot of the
that
major
up.
headlines do follow these military dynamics, all of these military operations that are underway from all of these sides. But as we take a live look here out of Beirut in Lebanon, David, I want to talk a little bit about what we know given the humanitarian situation on the ground in several of these places that have been hit. I mean, what is the impact to civilians right now?
Well, we know that there's massive displacement. This war started with a massive and predictably ferocious Israeli response, as I've noted. But also the Israelis have issued several warnings now.
Pink tip, I actually enjoy reading declassified documents. I just read some that with the CIA and MK Ultra the other day. So yeah, that's my type of thing. Hold on, let's go to this one. I want to see about Noam. Did she really get fired? Let's look at this and then we'll go up to Noam.
As President Trump escalates the war with Iran today, backlash from some of his strongest
supporters. Did Noam get fired, y'all?
This is not the United States' war.
My own feeling is no one should have to die for a foreign country. Our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel. It's to look out for us.
I'm just going to be brutally frank. If it's going to be a hard slog, I mean, that was not pitched in the 2024 campaign. It just wasn't. We're going to bleed support.
I was promised that this wouldn't turn into a larger regional conflict. It's hard to believe it. It's hard to believe that at this point.
He was the no more endless wars candidate in 2016 and 2024, particularly, and this looks like an open betrayal of the base.
Joining me now, Michael Hardaway, former communications director to Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, here in studio with me. Megan Hayes, former special assistant to President Biden, and Maura Gillespie, founder of BlueStack Strategies and previous advisor to former House Speaker John Boehner. Welcome to you all. So, Michael, you first here. We have Trump, who's defended all the criticism by telling a journalist, quote, MAGA is Trump. But one professor told the Washington Post, quote, I think to them it feels legitimately like a betrayal on a fundamental tenet of Trumpism. Who gets to decide what MAGA is and who it's about? Certainly it's the president, but it's also cumulatively a bunch of Americans who've bought into it. And does it suggest that this is a test of how strong the president's grasp is on the MAGA wing?
Yeah, the base decides what MAGA is, and many of the right-wing influencers who supported him and helped him win in the election have abandoned him over the past week. They are furious over his decision to start this war. I mean, I would argue that who would believe Donald Trump during the campaign when he says he doesn't believe in more wars? Of course he would go back on his word, and that's what has happened. I think he's in trouble as we look to the midterm elections. Where's the energy in terms of what Republicans will need to hold the House and the Senate if people are abandoning ship? We already know that independents have already abandoned ship from Donald Trump.
So, Maura, the Post did an analysis of 79 conservative politicians and commentators' comments on the Iran conflict. Most did support it. Only a few were staunchly opposed. So why has criticism gained so much traction? Where do everyday MAGA voters stand on it?
You know, your question to Michael, I thought of something that my former boss, John Boehner, used to say. He said, you know, a leader without followers is just a guy out taking a walk. And I think the President Trump is going to find himself in a position where he's not going to have many people behind him as he continues to really flip on them about what he has said in the past. And really, to the people who have supported him thus far, well, did they support him because he said that he was striking Iran to help those who had fought for their freedom, and then said that, you know, he wanted them to take this opportunity to choose their next leader? But then just days later saying that he wants to be very involved in who they choose to lead Iran next. So I think that it's going to be tough to be so contradictory. And if you're out there defending him on the day that he says one thing, what do you do the day he says something completely different? And I think that what you're seeing finally is there are people who are just fed up with being lied to and want some semblance of truth and transparency and just a frank conversation. We haven't really had that from the president. He didn't give us an address to the nation when he chose to make these strikes. He did it in a pre-recorded video.
Somebody in the chat, tell me why she got fired. I just kept hearing the lady got fired and Trump was very pissed off. I went to bed early last night, so I missed a lot. Why did Norm get fired, y'all?
From Mar-a-Lago. So I think there's this appetite
for
transparency, and there's a big disconnect between conservatives who are on, you know, media talking to the press and talking to people who are watching, and then the people who are actually voting.
Harvey, I can't stand
Megan,
Biden.
A very important point. The president has not addressed the nation in your typical fashion, a speech behind a podium that is inside the White House. Why not? And must he do that?
I think that he needs to do that. I think the country deserves that. I mean, we lost 6 people in the very first week of this war. I mean, that is unconscionable that he doesn't think that he should be
the second day.
Exactly. So it's unconscionable that he doesn't think that he needs to address the nation. He's losing support minute by minute. He has not made a justification of why this was necessary and why it is necessary right now. The American people are understanding. We understand that democracy is fragile and that other countries should participate in democracies, and we understand that. But you have to bring the country along. You have to tell them why you're doing it, what the justifications are. You can't just say, oh, gas prices might rise. Oh, well, you know, it's war, people are going to die. Oh, well, like the callous nature of which he's approaching this, I think is really going to wear thin on the American people. And the Republicans that are running in the midterms are the ones that are going to pay the price.
How much, Michael, is the low public support right now influenced by the messaging by this administration in this conflict? You've got the White House. They're using memes. They're using video game footage. They're interspersing it with, you know, Hollywood film highlights. This is not a game. And when asked about the concerns of more retaliatory attacks after 6 U.S. service members were killed, Trump responded with, like I said, some people will die. When you go to war, some people will die. I mean, how do you describe this rhetoric?
I think the messaging is obviously problematic, but his biggest problem is this economic disaster that he's overseen. I think that's why you're seeing low poll numbers across the board for him. You've got nearly 100,000 people last month that lost their job.
Yeah.
You have more than 7 million people unemployed in America. And then you've got all these rising prices. Gas is up around 14% over just the last week, among all of these other things. And so Donald Trump, his problem is both substance, but also communication with these childish memes and these very offensive and dismissive ways he
Try
talks
not to
about
use
war.
trigger words. Use
Gas
PDO
prices, Maura,
if you have
where
to.
do things stand in terms of the public support of this war as they go to the pump and they see how much they're having to pay because of the spike in oil prices?
It becomes a problem. You know, there's trackers already going on day by day. They're showing the numbers go up. And again, when you're faced with this problem about affordability, that the president says one day isn't real, next day it's a hoax, and now saying that it's an invented word, you know, that's a real impact that everyday Americans face. And it just, unfortunately for the MAGA world, and they're going to see him separate himself from reality, from the people who put him in the White House in the first place. And again, it shows the lack of severity that he's taking on the situations at hand that he is responsible for, and that he's supposed to be the leader of this country, of the free world, but also sympathizing and empathizing and recognizing the reality. And he has really lacked, not just in this term, but in his first administration, the empathy factor. And it's starting to really wear on people because they're facing the hardships and he is not.
It's also, Megan, I mean, people did not vote for this. On the campaign trail, he said, no new wars, I'm going to make the economy great, and your cost of living is going to come down. Not so much.
No, absolutely not. And Michael is right here with the messaging and the affordability issue at home. People would be more understanding about going to war at $1 billion a day if they could afford their groceries at home, if they could afford gas. So he's fighting on two different fronts here. And it seems that he cares more about distractions and more about his own legacy, which is disastrous at the moment, than taking care of the American people who voted for him, who wanted him to bring down prices, who wanted him to not enter into foreign wars. So, you know, he does have a messaging problem, but again, he is not going to pay the political consequences for it. It's the Republican Party in the midterms and then going into the 28 presidential election are the ones that are going to have to answer for his mistakes here and ultimately the American people.
Okay, Michael, Megan, Maura, thank you all so much for weighing in. Appreciate you all.
Choke Tehran's launch capabilities. And we will bring you all the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your boots on the ground reporting to you about everything that's happening in Israel and in the Middle East. And this is the 8th day of the war against the Revolutionary Guards in Iran, which is the head of the crumbling axis of evil in the Middle East. And the second, before we begin, I want to call on you to continue to spread.
I don't know how I keep getting put out of my own playlist. Give me a minute. All right, let me go back to what I was playing.
As President Trump escalates the war with Iran today, backlash from some of his strongest supporters.
Israel announced more than 80 of its fighter jets attacked what they called key Iranian military.
I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your boots on the ground reporting to you about everything that's happening in Israel and in the Middle East. And this is the 8th day of the war against the...
Israel announced more than 80 of its fighter jets attacked what they called key Iranian military infrastructure across the Iranian capital and central Iran overnight, including Mehrabad Airport.
Oh,
as President Trump
where I want
escalates
to go. Hold on. I need answers. What happened to Noam?
Who helped them? Your days of hiding are numbered. Yeah. To my survivor sisters today, we celebrate you. We see you, we believe you, and we will not stop fighting until justice is served. I will end with a quote from my sister-in-law, Virginia Roberts Dupre. Mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers need to show the battle lines are drawn and stand together to fight for a future of victims. Is protesting the answer? I don't know, but we've got to start somewhere.
Thank you, everybody. We so appreciate being here. It is so humbling to see so many amazing people from New Mexico standing up for what's right. And thank you from the family of Virginia Roberts Dupre and National Hero.
Hold on, y'all. We about to change the channel. I want to look at something else.
Family members, siblings, step siblings of Virginia Dupre were speaking there
We're
at
about to
this
turn the
ranch
channel
in
for a
New
second.
Mexico that was Jeffrey Epstein's estate for more than a decade. This coming on International Women's Day there on the land of enchantment. All right, I'm Andy Mack here on Live Now from Fox. They're continuing to call for transparency in the moment to release some of the names, honestly talking about some of the despicable acts that were unfolding there. I'm Andy Mack. We're back after this.
Israel announced more than 80 of its fighter jets attacked what...
About time. I can't never get this thing to move.
We are going to start.
I don't see the video I just added.
For over a week now, and that is the escalating situation over.
This ain't it. Hold on. No, it's moving too fast. Oh, gosh. I'm trying to go back to the... How are we on mute? I'm coming, guys.
Storage facility in Tehran as the war in the Middle East keeps escalating. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
I am literally clicking all the right buttons. This happens every live. It is so annoying. Y'all have no idea how annoying this is. I'm coming. Oh, fuck me. Oh, y'all didn't hear that. When turning channel goes horribly wrong.
Continue to hammer Iran's defense.
Gosh, come on. I'm trying to get to my CNN damn video. I want to cry. I want to cry. Let me take my time.
Hell on U.S. military targets. When President Trump was asked about this, here's how he reacted.
It sounds like the Russians are helping Iran target and attack Americans now.
That's an easy problem compared to what we're doing here. I mean, but can I be honest? It's just, I have a lot of respect for you. You've always been very nice to me. What a stupid question that is to be asking at this time. We're talking about something else.
CNN's Gabe Cohen is following all of this. And Gabe, tell us more about this reporting. Intel officials, I would assume, do not view this as a stupid issue. It is one that has a lot in the community concerned, especially given the fact, and we don't know that there's a direct parallel and connection, but we have just lost 6 U.S. service members in this war days ago.
Well, Bianna, one of the reasons that
missile sites, as well as limit their nuclear capabilities. Obviously, this on the forefront of the president, as he has noted that he would hope to have a say in exactly who comes next with the head of the Islamic Republic there, but potentially the son of Khamenei, the supreme leader, now chosen as his successor. But we also noted that the United States and Israel will continue to hit Tehran hard. We saw some video last night of some fuel and oil refineries being struck, as Israel's saying that these were being used by military assets. We're also hearing from lawmakers back here at home saying that they hope the United States, the White House, continues to hammer that region. Let's listen in to this from earlier on with the Republican Senator, Lindsey Graham.
I can't stand this man, y'all. I don't know what's happening with the sound. See, even God said no. It's muted. God said no.
All right, that was from Lindsey Graham earlier on today, talking about the impacts of the U.S. there. We're also learning new information right now as another U.S. service member are tragically losing their lives during this ongoing conflict, bringing the total now to 7. This from Central Command, talking about an update. A U.S. service member passed away from the injuries received during the Iranian regime's initial attacks across the Middle East. The service member was
What's
seriously
your
wounded
question,
at the
love?
scene
Put
of
the
an
question
attack
in chat
on the
again.
U.S. troops in the United Kingdom, or the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on March the 1st. This is the 7th service member killed in action during Operation Epic Fury. The major combat operations will continue. The identity of the fallen warrior will be withheld until 24 hours after next of kin were notified. And this also comes some 24 hours or so after we saw this, the dignified transfer of those 6 U.S. service members back at home at Dover Air Base.
Let's
there, as
go.
President Trump in attendance, along with First Lady Melania
I
Trump,
love the
Vice
engagement in the
President
chat.
J.D. Vance, and other officials on the ground there back in the United States. They were deployed
Everyone
from
double tap the
Iowa.
screen,
So
please.
obviously, we'll potentially see another dignified transfer a little bit later on. President Trump saying that number might grow. I do want to put up a post from Lindsey Graham, the Republican senator from South Carolina, talking about this. Like everyone, I am heartbroken to hear of another fallen service member as a result of Operation Epic Fury, which was designed to end the Iranian regime's reign of terror on the world. Just as with the other fallen, these brave Americans paid the ultimate sacrifice to take down one of the most barbaric regimes in the world. This is a reminder of the steep cost of freedom and being able to live without fear. May God keep
Hi,
all
Ghost.
the fallen close
Hope you're
and
having an
heal
amazing
the
day.
wounded. All right, let's continue on, though. You're on Live Now from Fox. We're watching here a live picture in Tel Aviv in Israel on this Sunday.
So right about that, it can't be undone. I don't know what's going on over here. All right, let's turn the channel. If I'm able to, y'all already know this thing is not working on my behalf.
All right, live picture there in Tel Aviv, Israel, here on.
Let's see what's going on in Dubai.
Though said that he does not want Kurdish forces, and
This
there have
is
been
a bad
reporting that there have been a lot of work by the CIA to potentially get Kurdish forces involved in the war, to go in to Iran and foment an uprising. And Trump now says he does not want that. Here's how he put it.
We're not looking to the Kurds going in. We're very friendly with the Kurds, as you know, but we don't want to make the war any more complex than it already is.
Clarissa Ward is in Erbil, Iraq, which of course is home to a large Kurdish population. It was a broader Kurdistan, Iraqi Kurds and Turkish Kurds and Iranian Kurds. And the area where Clarissa is has been experiencing waves of drone and missile attacks since the conflict started. In fact, Clarissa, there was a direct focus on drone strikes being aimed at the hotels where Americans could be staying, whether it be journalists or contractors or members of the military. And I know there'd been so much reporting earlier this week where you were reporting about CIA efforts to perhaps get Iranian Kurds involved in this war. But now President Trump saying, oh, actually, no, we're not asking the Kurds to do that. What are you learning?
I think here a lot of people have whiplash, Aaron, because it was just a few days ago that President Trump said it would be a beautiful thing if Iranian Kurdish opposition fighters joined the fight. Then last night, as you just played for our viewers, he completely changed course and said that he would not like to see them joining the fight, that it would get too complicated and could risk many Iranian Kurds being killed. Now, to the leadership here in Iraqi Kurdistan, that has been met with relief. It takes a lot of pressure off them. They were coming under huge pressure from Iran, constant threats that if any single Iranian Kurdish fighter crossed that border from here in Iraqi Kurdistan, that there would be hell to pay for it. And certainly we have seen a steady stream of drone and missile strikes on those Iranian Kurdish camps. So they will be sighing or giving a sigh of relief, but officially the sort of response has been quite muted. And when I asked one official here why that was, he said, quote, because it's President Trump and every hour he says something different. So the anticipation is that perhaps it's possible that President Trump might change his mind again. Now, we've also been in touch with several of these Iranian Kurdish groups who were going to be part of this potential ground offensive. Suffice it to say, there's a little bit of confusion on their end, although they also underscored the slightly mercurial nature, let's say, of President Trump with regards to these kinds of proclamations. But they said also that they are still preparing themselves and reserve the right to go in if and when the time is right. And what they also said is that they believe this needs to happen. This is one specific group in the coalition. This window of opportunity really will only last as
You
long
too, beautiful
as this war
Sheila.
is still going. So still seemingly reserving that option for themselves. And the last thing I would say, Aaron, we know that the U.S. is now saying they wouldn't support this, but Israel is still a question. Israel potentially working with some of these groups as well and pushing them to join this offensive, though obviously we don't know exactly in what incarnation.
We begin once again with the very latest on the U.S. and Israel's escalating war with Iran. Right now, we're getting new details on who might be the next supreme leader of Iran. A member of the group charged with making that decision just told Iranian state media the name of the country's former Ayatollah Ali Khamenei will continue. That, of course, suggests that his son, the son of the slain leader, could now succeed him. President Trump says that he, in fact, will have the final say on Iran's new leader, telling ABC News that Khamenei's replacement won't, quote, last long without his approval. All of this comes as the Israeli military has launched what it calls wide-scale strikes across Iran overnight. Look at those pictures there from Tehran. Israel bombed some of the country's energy resources in the capital. That's what you're seeing burning there, because among the targets were oil depots and refineries.
This
My
is
colleague,
Trump's current
Karen Annette,
attitude.
she is live in Tel Aviv, back with us now.
His
Tell
best.
us what you're hearing there on the ground.
So, Jim, it's interesting when we see those images, and they are apocalyptic, out of Tehran. Advisor to Prime Minister Netanyahu was just here telling me that they are adamant that those facilities that you saw and those flames and the smoke and the rain, the black rain that came down, they say are IRGC facilities. So they reject any questions that this is infrastructure that would affect civilians. They say that the particular oil infrastructure that they hit was IRGC. Oil infrastructure for military use and military money. So, obviously that's the claim that they're making here, and very clearly so. I want to bring my colleague Jeremy Diamond now, because Jeremy, as we have seen those strikes in Iran, and I just shared what the Israelis are saying about them. Here we have received, there was sort of a bit of a quiet, and then we had several strikes in a row, and they were more closer together than we had seen in recent days. One of them we did see, whether it was missile parts or it's very unclear, got through, but there were injuries, and you're learning more. And that was really just a few blocks away from where we are.
A few blocks away was one of the impacts. Now, these are not the kind of full ballistic missile impacts that we saw at the beginning of the war, right? The one in Bet Shemesh, for example, where 9 people were killed after, the entirety of this missile warhead hit a synagogue, collapsed on top of a bomb shelter. In this case, what we seem to be seeing is smaller submunitions that are kind of part of the ballistic missile that disperse. We've seen some of those videos of the missiles in the sky and these kind of little particles.
Yes.
And
They
we're
look
now
like a firework almost,
exactly.
is how we've described
And we're now starting to see what that looks like when those smaller warheads actually make their way down and make impact in residential areas. And today it happened a few blocks away from here in Tel Aviv, as well as in Petah Tikva, which is a suburb of Tel Aviv. So we saw several kind of smaller impacts, but they can cause damage and they can also cause injuries. And in fact, we have 7 people who've now been injured by this missile debris, 1 person who's in serious condition, another in moderate condition. And it just shows that even when Iran isn't able to get, a full ballistic missile strike in Israel, that most of these missiles are getting intercepted, they can still cause some serious damage. And this will be a problem for Israel going forward.
And of course, as the Israelis, what they're saying when they're looking at what's happening in Tehran, back to the oil infrastructure that they say is IRGC, they point to this as obviously terrorizing civilians. Is that landed in a neighborhood right near here, right? That was somebody's apartment.
Right. Yeah, exactly. This is hitting residential areas. Again, we don't know what they're targeting necessarily. And we've seen some instances where certainly they are hitting military bases in Israel, and they have in the past. But in this case today, we saw several impacts in residential areas.
All right. Jeremy Diamond, thank you very much. Here in Tel Aviv with me. And of course, we talk about what's going on in Tehran, where residents are dealing with, as I said, apocalyptic scenarios and images, and not getting the sirens and warning that you get in Israel most of the time, that you get in the Gulf most of the time. They don't, and they are dealing with the aftermath of strikes on key oil storage sites. Now, this video that I described as apocalyptic, we have geolocated to Tehran. It shows that massive fire and the smoke plume at a facility just outside of the city, one of several oil facilities which have been hit and were still burning throughout part of today, at least. Our senior international correspondent, Fred Blanken, is there.
Y'all don't
was
like
able to get
CNN.
very close. I will note, of course, it's important to understand, while his reporting there is absolutely crucial and incredible and brave, we do want you to know CNN is only able to operate in Iran with government approval. Here's Fred.
It's an absolutely apocalyptic scene here. We've just made it to the Shahran oil depot.
Take a look right here on the right-hand side of your screen. That is video from just moments ago coming in from the Associated Press and Reuters as more airstrikes reported there across Iran's capital city of Tehran. Going to pop this up a little bit bigger so you can see the smoke there in the distance, as today does mark 1 week since the start of the operation. Again, just moments ago, new airstrikes reported in the capital as the U.S. and Israel launched those continuous strikes, with Israel simultaneously striking the Hezbollah terror group over in Beirut. We do have a live image from Beirut in Lebanon at this hour. As you can see, things have kind of calmed down. You're not really seeing anything in the way of smoke, but just about an hour or so ago, there was even more smoke. What I want to pop up now is this post from the Israel Defense Forces that came out a short time ago, as they say, as part of IDF activities in Lebanon, IDF Special Forces operated overnight in an attempt to locate findings related to a missing navigator. No findings related to him were located at the search site, and no IDF injuries were reported. The IDF will continue to operate relentlessly, day and night, out of a deep commitment to bringing all of Israel's sons, the fallen and the missing, back to Israel. Again, that is the operation that's continuing both in Tehran.
You might have to keep turning the channels until I get to where I want to be.
7 days into the Iran war, the United States has given Tehran an ultimatum as the capital suffers its heaviest bombardment yet. The death toll rising again as Iran launches new strikes, and Lebanon is pounded in a devastating attack.
Wiped out by 50 fighter jets with 100 bombs. The Tehran bunker of Iran's dead supreme leader, still used by officials until now. Across the Iranian capital, day and night, the onslaught relentless. Locals claim it's the heaviest bombing since the war started a week ago. Here, an underground base for missile launchers and Iranian defense. The US president today demanding unconditional surrender.
Our military is doing phenomenally.
Iran's death toll so far, an estimated 1,332 people. Bodies still being hauled from the rubble of homes. Their war at an end, but Iran's battling on. firing into neighbouring Iraq, taking out Kurdish bases, as Iran hit another Iraqi target, US-owned oil company Halliburton. Iran is still sending rockets and drones into Israel, Iron Dome on red alert. Interceptors protecting IDF headquarters in Tel Aviv as Israel turns attention north. Downtown Beirut, entire buildings pulverized. The hunt for Hezbollah raging on. Israel says these are terrorist command centers in the heart of the Lebanese capital, used to organize military attacks. For Lebanese locals, just more misery.
So we're on Lebanon's southernmost border right now. And in fact, that village over there, decimated as it is, behind that concrete wall, that's in Lebanon. And what the Israeli army are trying to do right now is create a border buffer zone and push Hezbollah as far to the north as it's physically possible.
It's no man's land, but the Israeli army says the area is still crawling with Hezbollah. At an army media briefing nearby, warning alarms sound.
Let's go inside.
And we're forced to take cover.
So in the middle of a press briefing, we just got an alarm going that there's a drone making its way in this area right now.
For a few anxious minutes, military and media huddle as it passes. But as the briefing gets underway again,
come, we're gonna go inside again.
The attack drone returns. When the Chief of Staff for 769 Brigade resumes questions on the extent of their bombing campaign through Lebanon.
People are saying, are you about to turn Lebanon into another Gaza?
We have no intention of turning Hezbollah into Gaza in no way.
The war with no signs of slowing. An American supersonic B-1 arriving today, called the Bone. It carries up to 34,000 kilos of bombs. A horror show in the wings.
Yes, Lord.
So it was around this time last week that Operation Epic Fury was launched and plunged this region into war and chaos. The satellite photos show the before and after in Iran. The Americans, though, we've seen Ayatollah toppled and we've seen 1,000+ people killed in this, most of them civilians, and the US refusing to slow down. Now reports that a third aircraft carrier group is on its way to this region. In the Atlantic, 2 weeks away, the USS George H.W. Bush. 3 aircraft carriers in this area at the one time. That is an unprecedented concentration of firepower. Sam?
Chris Reason in Tel Aviv, thank you. A resolute US president has sent a clear message to any surviving members of Ayatollah's regime. There will be no deal, only unconditional surrender. The White House is under fire, though, for releasing videos glorifying the strikes in Iran, one of them set to an Aussie anthem.
With the future of Iran hanging in the balance,
Lord
Donald
have
Trump
mercy.
hosts a meeting on the future of college sports.
It doesn't sound very important compared to what's happening in Iran and other places, but it is very important to me.
Also high on his list, crushing the Iranian regime, setting a new end goal. There will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender.
Their army is gone, their navy is gone, their communications are gone, their leaders are gone.
The president says he's fine if another religious figure becomes Iran's next leader, whether they're democratically elected or not, as long as they treat the United States and Israel well.
I know there's a number of people that our intelligence agencies and the United States government are looking at.
But with each strike, that shortlist gets shorter. Also today, reports that Tehran has been receiving battlefield help from Russia, with allegations the Kremlin has been providing intelligence helping it to target U.S. assets across the Middle East.
We're tracking everything. Our commanders are aware of everything.
It clearly is not making a difference with respect to the military operations in Iran because we are completely decimating them.
The White House rubbing it in, posting a stream of social media memes, including this one set to an Aussie anthem. And this, mixing war footage with clips from Hollywood blockbusters.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
Including
Please
Tropic
don't
Thunder,
that.
Ben Stiller demanding it be removed, We never gave you permission and have no interest in being part of your propaganda machine. In Washington, D.C., Rob Scott, 7 News.
Counter-terror police in the UK have arrested 4 men suspected of...
Sorry about that outburst. Y'all, how my dog is. He don't play about his mama. Trump is petty. He is so petty. I don't even know what to say about that. Sometimes I do have to laugh with him or at him. He's pretty petty. Also, I need to know what happened to Noam. I need the details. Okay? So when I get off of here, because it was confirmed during my live that she was fired, when I get off of here, I got to go do some looking up. And yeah, I'm going to be back talking about Noam, updating you guys with the current war and the status of things going on. If this war keeps escalating, there are several major risks. Oil crisis, the Strait of Hormuz disruption could send global fuel prices skyrocketing, military escalation, more NATO or regional powers could get involved, economic shock, shipping routes and energy markets could be destabilized worldwide, while the wider Middle East war, Israel, Lebanon, Iraq, and Gulf nations could become active battle zones. They can become active, okay? And that's exactly why world leaders right now are pushing hard for de-escalation. Trump ain't having de-escalation, baby. Okay? But here's the reality that people need to understand. Wars like this rarely stay contained. History shows that once missiles start flying across multiple countries, it becomes almost impossible to control how far things will go. And right now, the world is watching a conflict unfold that could either cool down or explode into something that reshapes the Middle East for an entire generation. I feel like we are looking at the new world order. Okay? And that's what everyone needs to pay attention to, what's happening right now. Because this just isn't another headline. This is geopolitical power keg, and the fuse has already been lit. I will be back with more stories tomorrow. I will be covering the body-worn camera footage of the unaliving of the Uber driver. The man was sentenced. We're going to talk about that. And I'll be back with more coverage on the war. So please make sure you like, share, comment, because I do engage with my people. Subscribe, make sure that notification bell is hit so you'll be notified anytime I go live, upload, or premiere. Please be kind to one another. Unapologetically Mika, out.
Unapologetically Mika, I bring the truth, no need to see. Viral stories and crime stories so bleak, leaving you hooked for weeks. Exposing liars and racists too. Crimes and scandals all exposed to you. My creativity paints the view, pull you in like the morning dew. My voice will ring through your souls at night, forever echo in your mind's eye. Like and share if you feel the light. He paints the view, pull you in like the morning dew. My voice will ring through your soul tonight, forever echo in your mind's sight. Like and share if you feel the light. Subscribe and hit the bell.